This is Ty Zen. I'm broadcasting from Los Angeles right now.
Long Beach.
Oh, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Well, a lot of people out in the world don't know where Long Beach is. They know where Los Angeles is at. Okay, so, all right. Hey, what's so special about Long Beach, man?
Long Beach is one of the largest container ports. It's where most of the stuff from China comes into the United States from.
Okay. So, oh, I forgot to introduce you guys. With me today, guys, is the Honorable Grandmaster, legendary, world-renowned LeonFood.com. Say hello, Leon.
It's good to be back.
Okay. We just got through taking a flight trip here to the moon, but it didn't work, so we'll talk more about it in a separate video. But in this video, guys, we also have a special guest that we're just gonna choose to remain anonymous. Okay. So we are currently in an Uber right now, and we're driving from Long Beach to where are we going?
Beverly Hills.
Oh yeah, to Beverly Hills.
90210.
Yeah.
90210.
To meet with a screenwriter slash director slash producer to discuss making a movie about, you know, how, you know, Leon and I came to the U.S., how Leon grew up in New Jersey, poor, and how I grew up poor in the ghettos of east of Houston, and see what they want to do with it. So we'll get back to that later, guys, after we talk to the Hollywood folks. Okay. But in this video, guys, we want to talk about something that our Uber driver say hello. Is it you said it was Yakini?
Yakini.
Yeah, Yakini, right? Yakini saw our swag, our shirts here, and saw the cryptocurrency stuff, and he was asking us about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, right? And he asked some really good questions about it because he had some concerns about it, and we thought that it would be a good idea if, while Yakini asked us the questions during the drive from Long Beach to Beverly Hills here, we can just answer for him and help him understand it, and then also help in case you guys are new also. Okay. So welcome to the show, Yakini.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what's your first question, Yakini? Ask away, and don't hold back on us, okay?
My first primary concern, according to Bloomberg very recently, is they seem to have a problem giving Bitcoin and the range went, I think, anywhere from 2,000 all the way up to 20,000, depending on what valuation process you use. And I'm wondering, how do you guys determine a valuation for Bitcoin on a given day or a given week?
Okay, so that's a great question. Basically, you're saying, you're asking us, you know, evaluate Bloomberg, the news media, financial news channel, is having difficulty giving a valuation to Bitcoin, and so you're curious how we do it on our team. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'll give you my answer, and then Leon can give you his answer. My answer is that Bitcoin is a new asset class, you know, similar to precious metals, similar to stocks, to bonds, to commodities like oil and wheat and coffee, soybean, things like that. And it's so new that no way anyone can give it an accurate valuation. So the news media such as Bloomberg and CNBC, they love to make up all kinds of bullshit about it just to get viewers and, you know, just have something juicy to talk about. But the reality is most of those people just bought their first Bitcoins just a few months ago, towards the middle and the end of 2017. And meanwhile, we've been doing it for nearly 5 years now. And what that means is that we've made, what that means to you and our viewers is that we've made a lot of mistakes already, and we're able to share some of the mistakes that we've made. And what the valuation is going to be, I don't think is as important as being able to get into it, okay, and getting started. That's the most important thing right now. Is anytime somebody asks us, you know, what coin they should get into, what cryptocurrency they should invest into, the first question we ask is, do you have any Bitcoins? And if they say no, we say the first thing you need to do is go get $10 or $100 worth of Bitcoins before you do anything else, and learn how to transfer to a hardware wallet such as the Trezor or such as the Ledger wallet. And that way you can learn how to secure your cryptocurrency assets first before you even think about making any money on it. Okay, so your thoughts on what the valuation is?
Okay, so my opinion, I agree with everything that Ty is saying, that at least if you don't have any Bitcoins, I would not worry about the valuation, because because we believe that as an asset class, this is going into the trillions. Right now we're about 400 billion, so it's at least, 10x from here. But to answer your question, I don't think, if you want to think about how should we think about Bitcoin when one way that there's many ways to think about it, but one way is to think about, like, what if there was what if Bitcoin becomes the currency of the internet? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, just like we use the US dollar, what gives the US dollar value? Well, it's because we're all Americans, and if you want to live in America or do business with Americans, you have to get the US dollar, correct? Like,
right.
if you're from some other country, or if you're in the United States, or you're not in the United States, as long as you want to do business in the United States or to live in the United States, then you need the US dollar, and that's what gives the US dollar value, right? But, Bitcoin has shown that it's possible for the internet to have its own currency. And one day, I don't know, it's looking very likely that currency is going to be Bitcoin, but there's always new cryptocurrencies coming out. I would think about it as, if there was the currency of the internet that's completely global, that doesn't belong to any government, what would that currency be worth? Okay, and just to give you some comparison, all the currencies in the world are about 100 trillion, and all the major currencies are measured in the trillions. The euros, the US dollar, the British pound, the Australian, the yen, all of these currency, and right now by far the most dominant currency of the internet. And if more people are coming onto the internet, if more people need to transact on the internet, independent of like their own home currency, then they're probably going to. It's looking very likely that it's going to be Bitcoin. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Yakini?
Yes.
Okay. How about some of the other questions you asked us earlier?
Yes. The other question that I have is in regards. I have a lot of questions, but the second question that comes to mind is, when we look at central banks and the role they may or may not play in either Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general, the explanations that I'm getting are confusing. I understand that China has a very serious interest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. I understand that the United States has been looking at it and contemplating getting involved with the Bitcoin market, possibly for taxation purposes in the future. So could you give me your take on central bank involvement with either Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general?
Okay, so that's a great question. What's our thoughts on the government and the central banks getting involved with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on it, is that we have a good 2 to 3 year boom in the cryptocurrency market, whereby this is the biggest bull market in human history that we know of, in recorded history. Okay, so we believe that there's an opportunity for people to get in and create some life-changing wealth, life-changing money, life-changing finances, life-changing profits in the cryptocurrency market. And we believe that this boom is going to last, anywhere between 3 to 5 years from now. Okay, and so because of that, the governments work very slow. Okay, And even if the government wants to get involved into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, and the central banks want to get involved into it, that is not something that they can just easily do right away. Even if they wanted to, they still have to go through procedures, or, government procedures, laws, and all kinds of stuff to be able to do it. You follow me, Yakini?
Yes.
It's not something that they can just go, okay, we want to control this, or we want to be involved in this, or whatever it is that they want to do with it. It's not something that they can quickly make a move on like you and I can. Okay. Like and so because of that, whether they get involved or not is completely irrelevant to us. Okay, at this moment, because the boom is happening right now.
Okay.
And if we wait until they get involved so that it's safer or it's less risky, by that time the profit potential is gone. There won't be huge profit potentials like we have right now. Okay, so that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think this is not just cryptocurrencies, but technology in general. Just look at what Uber has done to the taxi company, as an example, right? Like, they were not able to stop Uber from basically destroying the taxi business, because historically tech has moved much faster than governments and central banks can ever move, and even people. Most people can't even move that fast, right? So right now, what the government does is lagging by several years at minimum from where Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrencies are going from. In other words, in short, I would not be worried about what the government is going to do as an impact. Now, you do have to worry about making sure you pay your taxes on the money you make. I mean, you do need to make sure you comply with all the tax laws of whichever country you're in, and get advice from your CPA on how to do that. But we're not really very worried about what the government's going to do as far as our own personal investment decisions because of that.
Yeah, does that help answer your question there?
Yes, it does.
Okay. In other words, we are investors, so there's an opportunity to make a large sum of money and profits in the market, in the cryptocurrency market, and we don't know when that's.
Yeah, so I'll make a comment. So people were worried. This was a common thing about China banning Bitcoin, and I think a good example for you to look is what happened in China, where they didn't ban Bitcoin, but they basically shut down all the exchanges. They shut down the ICOs. They basically shut down as much as they could, and it didn't matter, right? So you can see how a powerful government like China was basically not able to have any effect eventually. I mean, they did 2 or 3 years ago. Every time they announced we're shutting down this exchange or we're putting in more regulations, the price would crash. But there's nothing more. They're out of ammo. The saying is there's nothing they can do or say anymore that can affect the price of Bitcoin or what's about to happen. They basically locked themselves out.
Yeah. Okay. You got more questions?
Yes. The other question is, I had a customer that told me that he was involved in Bitcoin several years ago, and he invested $20,000 increments over a period of time, and he claims that he lost $150,000.
Okay.
Now, I've heard other people claim that they've made money on Bitcoin, and I've heard people claim that they've lost money on Bitcoin.
Okay,
so I was wondering if you could give me your sentiments on what is taking place. Where do you put the blame on someone not being knowledgeable with what they're doing, or does it have to do with the time factor of when they tried to get in a while back versus getting in now?
How many years ago did he buy this?
He told me he was involved with it several years ago.
Several years ago. Okay.
So let's just say it was a little bit more than 2 years, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
And that really is the time frame, whether it's a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, is not so relevant. What's relevant is this: the thing that we have seen, the number one cause of people losing money in the cryptocurrency space is not because so much that the price of the cryptocurrency went down, right? So let's say they bought it a few years ago at $1,000 and it went down to $200, right? That's not actually the reason why a lot of people lose money in cryptocurrencies, because even if it goes back down to $200, they would have still made money if they held on to it, because it went up to $20,000 in 2017. The number one cause of people losing money that we have seen in the cryptocurrency space in the last 5 years, Yakini, is they just did not do the proper computer security, because back then there was not a lot of very good computer security tools for you to safely protect your Bitcoins. So that allowed hackers from other countries to reach into your computer and just steal it from you. Okay, that was number one. And then number two is that the people that own the Bitcoins, they did not understand computer security. Go ahead, Leon.
Yeah, there's half a dozen. Like if you're telling me your friend invested $20,000, increments of 20,000 a few years ago, there's no, and let's say he bought Bitcoin and he just held on to it. There's no possible way he could have lost money. The only way, from the market price, there's about half a dozen ways he could have lost money had he not. But it wasn't from the price dropping. It could have been from he left it on the exchange and the exchange got hacked. He forgot his password. He lost his computer. Someone hacked into his computer. Someone hacked it. There's about a half a dozen common ways people lose their Bitcoins. And but
it's not from the price.
It's not from the price falling, though. Yeah.
And the reason why we say that is because whether you bought Bitcoin in a few years ago in 2016 or in 2015 or 2014, they were all under $1,200, and then Bitcoin went up to $20,000 in 2017. So there's no way that if somebody held on to it, they could have said they lost money. So the only way they would have lost money is just by outright losing the Bitcoins themselves. That help?
Yes. The other question I have is in regards to the technology itself. There's a certain term that they use. I can't think of the term.
Blockchain.
Yeah, the blockchain. But they're claiming now that the blockchain technology is something that they can use to do a lot of things with, such as, for example, restaurants that claim that all of their products are organic food. They can use the blockchain technology to track each individual item in the future that's coming into their store. Whereas in the past they had guaranteed that these items would be organic, and in reality a lot of times it wasn't organic produce that they were selling their customers in the restaurant. So I was wondering if you could elaborate to me on the blockchain technology in reference to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Okay, so
there's two, yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of points I want to make with you first, Yakini, before we discuss what the blockchain is. So let me ask you this, okay? We are driving this vehicle right now. Do you know how the engine, ignites the fuel inside the vehicle? And do you know how that works and how it turns the crankshaft and explodes the pistons? Okay. All right, well, let's use something else. How about like your cell phone? Do you understand how your cell phone produces a frequency, electromagnetic waves, sends it out to the cell towers that's hidden, disguised as trees around us, and then transmits a signal maybe to a satellite and then back to Earth, or maybe to another cell tower? Well, do you think that it's necessary to understand that to use the car or to use the cell phone? No. So what we need to do is that in most things in life that we use, we come in there and we just use it because it fulfills a need that we are trying to accomplish, right? So, when people ask how Bitcoin works or how the blockchain works, right? Because usually people ask that because it's such a new technology that they're scared of it. And so that's why they ask those questions. But no one asks how the US dollar comes into creation. Nobody asks where it's printed, how much of it we have, how much is floating on the market. But nobody asks that because it's something that they were born into and they just use it because everybody else is using it. But really, most people don't know how the US currency is even created, or where it's coming from, or how it's counted, or how much is in the supply. Would you agree with that?
Well, my reasoning for asking was one of the things in the media about Bitcoin is that it's unclear who the original founder was, first of all, but one of the repetitive arguments is that there were dark players involved in Bitcoin that had
so we have to be careful about that, about those conspiracy theories.
Right.
The reason why I call them conspiracy theories is because there are people out there that do not want Bitcoin to succeed.
Okay.
For example, people that want us to go back to using, precious metals because they're in the business of selling gold. So they're not going to tell you that, they're not going to say anything good about Bitcoin because they want the world to go back to gold so they can make more money.
Okay.
Right. So the people that want you to use silver so that they can make more money, right? They want to pitch silver. So they're going to tell you this new technology is not good. It's just like we come from Texas, and we know that electric cars are cleaner, they're much better, they're faster, and they're safer than gasoline cars. But you guys use a ton of it out here in California, but when you come to Texas, you don't see that many electric cars. Why is that? They won't let Tesla come in and sell. The dealerships in Texas are rallying together against Tesla and Elon Musk, so that it makes it hard for him to sell the electric cars in Texas.
Well, they want to get a cut of it.
Yeah,
right.
And why do you think that's so, Yakini? Is it maybe because Texas is one of the biggest oil and gas states in America? So there's always an incentive for people to say that something is not good or something is good, right?
So yeah, I will just say that the blockchain is a revolutionary technology, but it's also if you're interested in how it works, it might be if you do have an interest in the technology. I will say that I'm a software engineer, and it's very difficult to explain to someone how it works.
So my primary interest really in the technology was what the other gentleman referred to as conspiracy theories. What I was worried about was that there were players in the game that had the ability to go in and control the assets of Bitcoin to their advantage. Because that was one of the statements that was made about the early players, that a lot of them were able to pull out their investments and enrich themselves at the cost of everyone else.
That's not true at all.
Okay.
Okay. Well, is that any different? I think what he's saying is that the early people who bought Bitcoins or invested in Bitcoins made a lot of money. And that is definitely true. The people who did get in early, but that's the same as like if you bought Facebook stock earlier than at $10, or if you worked at Facebook and you got stock options before it IPO'd, then you made a lot of money off the people who then bought the IPO when it came public. But that's the way how markets and investing work.
The other clarification I need is when you are trying. I hear different versions of when you're trying to cash in your Bitcoins. I hear people say it's easy. I hear people say it may be difficult. I hear people say you might not be able to do it at a given point.
No, that's not true. You can convert your Bitcoins into US dollars and back into Bitcoin at any time you want, especially if you live in the US and like in the EU countries. That's very, very easily. We've
so
done
the conversion, but can you cash it out and pull it out?
Yes. When we say convert it, that's what we mean. You can take your one Bitcoin, convert it to $9,000 right now, and take your $9,000 and convert it back into Bitcoin at any time you want. In the U.S. and the EU countries, in other countries like communist countries and stuff, where they have very strict control on your money, then those countries are harder, so that you have to do different ways. But I want to get back to what you were saying about the grocery supply and the organic food, because I didn't finish answering that for you. Right, so we can agree that it does not matter if we understand how the blockchain works or not in order to use it, and for us as investors to make money from it. The other thing too is that you have to be aware of that there are people that jump on the hype bandwagon. So whenever Uber first came out, right, then you got Lyft, then you got all these other companies and that keep saying, oh, we're like the Uber of this, or we're like the Uber of hotels, or we're the Uber of this. And you've heard that before, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, so there are companies out there that are trying to borrow the hype from the Bitcoin technology. And so they're saying, hey, you know, we're using Bitcoin in healthcare, Bitcoin in the energy industry, Bitcoin to track groceries. You don't need Bitcoin for 99% of that garbage, okay? Because there's a lot of other computer software databases that can be used for that. What the primary technology that Bitcoin is good for is to be used as a universal currency that everyone can use across the internet safely. Because there's no way for you and I to safely send, like there's no way for me, if you were in, let's say, Ethiopia, right? There's no way for me to send you $100 easily, okay? If you were in a communist country like Iraq or Iran, there's no way for me to send you money easily. If you were in Cuba or Vietnam, where I come from, right? There's no way for me to easily send you money, okay? And that's what this Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies were designed for, is that it allows us to be able to send money from one human being to another without the need for a middleman. Because right now, if I want to send you money in, let's say, in Ethiopia or in Vietnam, I have to go to my bank, which is a middleman, and ask him for permission to send you $100, and then they send it to your bank in Vietnam or Ethiopia, and then you have to go to your bank in those countries and then get the money from them. So that's what Bitcoin is designed to do, is eliminate the need for a middleman, okay?
So
Yeah.
how does Bitcoin compare to someone like PayPal? Do they see Bitcoin as a threat in any way, or
whether they
competitor?
see whether so the question that you're asking is not just about PayPal. The question you're basically asking is, what about all these other payment services?
Correct.
Like PayPal, Visa, Amex, MasterCard, American Express, right? Western Union, MoneyGram, any of these, you know, money sending services and money payment services, correct?
That's correct.
And the answer is that it does not matter what they can choose to adopt the Bitcoin technology, or they can just sit on the sidelines and say that it doesn't work or it's crazy, and then get left in the dust and get, you know, become extinct like the dinosaurs.
Like, for example, the one that I use, I have several of them on my phone, but the one that I use the most is called Square Cash.
Yeah.
And they have a feature that allows you to purchase Bitcoin.
Yes,
Yes.
they do.
And I'm wondering, I hear that some of these outfits are legitimate and some aren't.
Yeah.
So on the internet, they give you maybe the top 5 people that you could trade with Bitcoin with that are safe. Are there any traders out there that you
So
recommend or
basically,
suggest?
well, the question you're asking is, what are the safe companies and services that are safe to use? And that's a great question, because there's 1,500 cryptocurrencies out there,
Right.
and then there's you know, thousands of more companies that revolve around those 1,500 cryptocurrencies right now. And what I would say is that to go to www.cryptocurrency.market, that's our website, and go to the FAQ section, and there's a list there of all the cryptocurrency exchanges, wallet services, and security products that we have used ourselves personally for the last 5 years, and that we feel that are safe for new beginners to use. And these are the ones that are very reputable, they're well known, and they have millions, and some of them even have billions of dollars on the line. And so they're not going to try to steal your money or try to hack you for your $100 when they have hundreds of millions of dollars on the line for their company. So it would be like if you own a $100 million or $1 billion taxi company or a transportation company, you're not going to try to steal $10 from your passengers and ruin your reputation.
All right, well, that's a very good point you're making, because as you know, in our system that we have, it's only the major players that can take advantage of our economic system, such as our insurance companies and our banks. They take our money, they reinvest it, and they make tons of profit off of the so-called small depositor, for example.
Yes, and that's going to always happen. That's always going to happen in every economic system. There's always going to be people that know how to invest money, and there's people that don't know how to invest money, so they have to give their money to somebody else to do it. And that's why on our channel, we've always been a firm believer that it's your money, you should be responsible for it and not someone else. You know, unless you have like mental health conditions or something like that, where you cannot accurately make decisions on your money. But we believe that people should get educated on taking care of their money instead of working, you know, 10, 12 hours a day to accumulate that money and then turn around and give it to some random stranger on Wall Street or at some bank to do it. Because if you think about it, if I ask you to give me money right now, right, to if I say, hey, Yakini, why don't you give your money to me and Leon and we'll take care of it for you? Would you do that?
No.
Probably, absolutely not, right? But at least we're sitting here explaining to you what we're doing. You won't feel comfortable and won't feel safe, you know, giving us your money to manage for you, right? But when you walk into a bank or to a institution or to a broker and you give them your money to manage for you, what's the difference? You haven't talked to any of those people. You know, there are people right now in America and European Union countries, right, where at the end of each month, a portion of their employment compensation is taken out and put into a bank to be, or into the stock market to be invested for them, and they have no clue who's doing it. They have no clue what company the money is going into, and they have no qualms and no complaints about that. But whenever we tell them to, you know, take a look at Bitcoin and there's a huge profit potential to be made here, right? Then they say, oh, it's a scam or it's a fraud or that's not safe. But meanwhile, they're willing to give their money to some random stranger at some place to manage it for them. So it's almost like, you know, my question is, why are you asking those questions when we tell you about Bitcoin, but not about where your retirement money is put at? You know, most people, when you ask them, hey, where is your retirement money in, you know, what stocks is it in, or what bonds or what commodities it's in, most people will not know.
Right.
But at the end of every month, you know, what is it, 5%, 6%, or 8, 10% of their wages are taken out automatically and put into these investments for them. So we always are strong believers that you worked hard for your money. The only person that's going to take care of your money is you.
Let's go back to the first question I asked you about valuation.
Yeah.
We know that we're dealing with stocks and bonds. One of the so-called maxims is buy low and sell high.
Yes.
How do you determine a good entry point to start purchasing Bitcoins if there is a problem with valuation or understanding exactly what it's valued at a given point in time?
Okay, so that's a great question, and that's always a concern for people because they want to know, like, how high is this going up is the question that they're asking. You know, if I get in at $10,000 per Bitcoin, is it going to go up to 20,000? Is it going to go up to 100,000? And the answer is that nobody knows, right? And if somebody tells you, oh yeah, it's guaranteed to go to $100,000, right? All I can tell you is that they're full of shit. Okay, there's no freaking way that they're going to know when something's. That's like me saying, hey, you know, Apple stocks are going to $1,000. Like, how the hell would I know that? Like, how in the world would anyone know that? Okay. So that's just a bunch of bullshit that a lot of people on the media outlets, they try to tell you, but the reality is they don't know. There's no way to know. But here's what we do know, okay? And I'll use this as an example, so that an analogy, right? So that you can see for yourself. So when I bought my house in North Dallas, I bought it for like, I think it was like $220,000, somewhere around there. And about a year later, I found out that the Toyota North American headquarters were going to be moved from Los Angeles, from the Los Angeles area, Southern California area, to North Dallas. And it was going to be a couple of exits down from, a few exits down from where I live. Now, would you agree that if Toyota is moving their North American headquarters from Southern California to North Texas, do you agree that it's probably going to increase the value of that neighborhood? Now, do we know how much the value of each home is going to go up to?
No.
No, we don't know that, right? So, but we do know this, it will go up in value. And we're willing to make a bet that, hey, you know what? If we buy some of the houses here, if possible, there's a good chance that it's going to go up in value, simply because we know that when Toyota North American headquarters moves their neighborhood down the street, they're going to require thousands and thousands of homes and employees from that neighborhood, and they're going to more than likely move thousands of their employees from New York, from other states, and from California over there to North Texas, so that they can work in the headquarters, right? So we don't know how much it's going to go up, but we have a very strong opinion that it is going to go up. And luckily, one of the houses that is exactly just like my house, they just got sold like maybe 2 doors down from my house, 2 or 3 doors down from where I live, a few months ago for like $354,000. So it went, the houses in my neighborhood all went up like $100,000 just because the Toyota is building their headquarters down the street from me. And this is the same thing that goes back to Bitcoin. Do we need to know the exact valuation of Bitcoin? I don't think that's important. I don't think that's necessary. I think what's more important to everyone that's listening to this is that you are involved in it. Even if it's just $10, even if it's just $100, and even if it's just $1,000 or $10,000, whatever that you can afford to, like, and whenever we say what you can afford is something like, you know, when you go out in California, if you just go out on a date or take someone out for one weekend, it's probably going to cost at least $50. So if you just skip 2 dates and just cook at home and eat, you know, and save you $100, that's $100 you can put into Bitcoins right there. Okay. Yeah, to get started. You're not risking a lot. If you miss that, it's not a big deal, because, you know, you can miss 2 dates with someone, with a lady, and that's not going to kill you. Right. So that's what you do. Like, hey, you know what? Instead of buying a new phone for $800, why don't you just keep the old phone that you have that's still working fine, right? And then save you that $800 and go put it into Bitcoins. Or maybe you say, hey, my phone is broke, but instead of getting a new $800 phone, maybe you just get a used $400 phone, and then you save $400 and take that $400 and go put it into Bitcoins. Or if you just get an IRS tax return, right, and you get $1,000 tax return, instead of going to spend it, and just, most people just spend and throw it away the minute they get that tax return check. So instead of doing that, take that $1,000 tax return, go put it into Bitcoins. You know, we know people that smoke weed, and they spend like $200 every month smoking weed. Right. Every month, right? Instead of smoking, you know, if you can't quit smoking weed, well, at least cut back and only smoke $100 worth of weed, and take the other $100 that you didn't smoke up and go put it into Bitcoins, because that'll do more for your financial health than smoking weed will. Right? Okay. Well, what other places people can get $100, $200 from?
Yeah, I think what the real question is, you want to know when to buy and when to sell, and that's not, you know, we made a video about this yesterday. What you're really asking is the price going up or down, right? Not really. You're saying the word valuation, but what you're really asking is the market going to go up or down? And we don't know, and no one knows.
No, what I'm really talking about is, you know, when you purchase stocks, you're usually advised to use leverage plans where you just buy a certain amount of that particular stock every month.
And that would be a good strategy for Bitcoin as well. One of my friends did use that strategy as well. There's a feature that he in Coinbase where it's called a recurring buy, where they can just go in and pull a fixed amount of money every week, every month, you know, whatever you set, and to buy Bitcoins at the market price, whatever the price is that month, right? And just buy a little bit every month. That's a perfectly fine strategy. He did that, and he literally made millions doing that for 2 years. You know, just taking, I don't know exactly how much he put in every month.
He listened to us, and all he did was just put on recurring, you know, instead of going out, instead of wasting.
Instead of trying to figure out what the valuation was going to be, and he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, whatever the price is this month, I'm gonna buy a little bit, whatever I can afford, right? Okay. And you know, and you will get the average valuation, right? If you do that method, you'll buy some high and you'll buy some low, but if you consistently keep buying, you'll get the average valuation of the market over time. Okay. And that is close enough. You don't need to know, especially if you don't have any Bitcoins to begin with.
Especially if you don't have a lot of money to start with.
Yeah, if you don't have a lot of money to start with, it's completely irrelevant what someone's opinion of the valuation is. It's completely irrelevant. Okay. Even your own opinion is irrelevant.
Okay. Yeah, like if you believe that Tesla cars, the electric cars coming out by Tesla, is going to be a game changer in the world, who cares how much the valuation is? if you're seeing that everybody's buying it around you, right, the most important thing to do is to go and
Now, if you are worried about valuation, if you're worried about I have a chunk of money, like I have $50,000, you know, a big chunk of money that I don't want to buy at the top, or I don't want to buy it and then it immediately crashes, right? And I lose a bunch of money.
Valid.
And that's valid. Then I would say, okay, if you're worried about that, then you average in, right? You say, okay, I'll buy $100 or $1,000 or whatever it is, and divide up your money, and then you'll get the average valuation over time. You'll get pretty close to what fair market value would be, and that would smooth out the market volatility of, oh, it's up this week or it's down next week. You know, it just averages out.
Now, you mentioned a figure of 400 billion as total valuation
of all cryptocurrencies at the moment.
Now.
So that's where it's at about right now, about 400 billion.
We believe that it's going to go up 12 to 15 or even 20 times from there.
Now, you also mentioned that there may be big players in there that have either tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars invested into.
They have billions of dollars invested, much less.
Okay, now each individual or company or whomever that's purchasing Bitcoin, they're identified by just a number, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know who they are?
You don't know who they are.
Some of them,
unless they tell you who they are.
They tell you, you know, like some of them said that, hey, you know, I had, you know, like the Winklevoss twins that started Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg, right?
They claimed
they had 150,000 or
they claimed they had 1% of all the Bitcoins is what their claim was.
And they're not going to be able to lie about that.
Well, we don't actually know if that's even true unless they showed us.
Well, here's the thing: they're reputable businessmen, and they're working with the government. You know, they're opening up. Those guys are worth billions of dollars. You know, they're not going to go on the internet and risk, you know, getting sued or getting in trouble with the government regulations by lying about what they have and what they don't have.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because when they file with the like right now, we're trying to open up a Bitcoin trade desk, and we have to file with the government regulations. We have to submit our tax documents, our business tax documents and everything.
Okay.
And we have to get it reviewed. We have to pay thousands of dollars to certified public accountants and lawyers to review our financial statements and everything. And they have to be correct and audited and everything. And then we have to submit it to the government, and then we have to register with the financial crimes and enforcement network with the government. So we have to give all this paperwork to them. We're just a small company. We're not in the billions like these guys are. So I don't see, it would not benefit them to commit fraud by putting in false numbers and all of that when they're making a crap load of money already.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you're making, you know, gazillions of dollars, why would you go out there and lie and ruin your reputation for when you're the first big player in the industry, or you are one of the big players in the industry, and you're making millions of dollars every day? Would you take that risk? I don't think so, you know. And these guys have so much money. I just don't imagine that they would do something like that. And you know, we've been wrong before, but overall, you know, most of the big players in there, they're trying to do it right because they're making a shitload of money.
How would you distinguish penny stock options from Bitcoin?
The penny stocks are on the stock exchange, and the Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies are on cryptocurrency exchanges only. They're not intermingled at this moment, like the stocks and the bonds and the forex.
They're not the same thing. I mean, they're two different things. You're talking about the stocks, or these are digital assets based on an entirely different, on a new technology. They're not even.
That's like asking, you know, like, hey, what do you think about the Uber cars or the Tesla cars versus airplanes or versus trains? They're not the same format. They're not the same.
I was just looking in terms of risk.
In terms of risk, in my opinion, just a lot of people are scared that because Bitcoin drops 70% or 80% in price, they're scared, you know. But if your money, if you put $100 into Bitcoin and it grew 10 times, right? And it went from $100 to $1,000, and you lost 70% of it, and it drops back down to $300, you're still up. You're still up by 200%. I wouldn't complain about that. If I go up and then I lose, you know, 70, 80% of it, but I still retain a nice piece of that profit or that gain, I'll do that every day. I'll do that every week.
Yeah,
and
but
that's,
there is volatility, right? So that's why you do need to manage your risk. Don't put all your money into Bitcoin. We've never advocated that. You know, it is a highly volatile asset,
Right.
and so you do need to take that into account as to how much money you're willing to put in because of its volatility.
that help out?
Yep.
Okay. All right,
Guys
guys.
did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for those great questions, Yakini, because those are very common questions that beginners have, and we just want to address it for you
Okay.
and for our audience as well. So, you know, we appreciate asking those questions. You know, so thanks for watching this, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.